What does this win mean for the 49ers, and what does this loss mean for the Buccaneers season?
Well, I'll start with the 49ers since they handily defeated the Bucs. This was a great win for the 49ers. And when it comes to Brock Purdy, with this being his first NFL start, I don't think it could have gone any better. And they got off to a hot start right from the word go. First drive of the game, they're marching right down the field. They end up doing, I think, a pitch to Deebo Samuel. It was like a 20-yard scamper. He runs into the end zone. The 49ers are up 7-0. After that, the 49ers defense shuts down the Bucs offense. And then consistently throughout the first half, the 49ers, led by Brock Purdy, were put in positions to score and able to execute at a high level. And they did that consistently throughout the first half. I mean, Kev, at halftime, it was 28-0. The game was over. And there was nothing that Tampa could do to respond against that 49ers defense because the 49ers defense they were getting after Tom the entire day. And once it got to a point where the 49ers were up 2 or 3 possessions, the 49ers, all they had to do was just drop back in coverage because they knew that the Bucs were going to throw the ball. Because running the ball at that point for Tampa was kind of irrelevant. They have to make up the ground sooner rather than later. And it essentially just became a 7-on-7 match. And Tampa's really been in that situation the entire year where if they get into a hole, they just have to rely on Brady to pass them out of the deficit. And more times than not this year, they haven't been able to do that. And once again, it just didn't work out for the Bucs in that regard. And it's really just based off of what that 49ers defense presented them. They weren't giving the Bucs really any room to work with. That's why the Bucs only scored 7 points. And it took basically the entire game for the Bucs to get 7 points on the board because the Bucs didn't score until it was 35-0, and it was a garbage time touchdown anyway. So when it comes to the 49ers, they are a very solid team from top to bottom. I understand Brock Purdy's a third string quarterback, and this was his first NFL start. So he is limited in what we've seen so far, and he's limited in actual game experience. But I have to say, he definitely has some confidence out there. He's relatively consistent in passing the ball. He's doing a great job distributing the football to multiple targets. And then when you have somebody like Christian McCaffrey out of the backfield who's utilized for so many different purposes, not only just in the run game, but could be effective out of the passing game as well. I mean, I don't know how you stop that. The only thing when it comes to the 49ers is are injuries going to bite them? And that's been a consistent theme this year. You had Trey Lance who went down earlier in the year. He's out for the year. You had Jimmy G who just had his season end last week when he broke his foot. And now you have Deebo Samuel, who just suffered a high ankle sprain. He's out for 4 to 6 weeks. Fortunate for him, I thought it looked a lot worse than just a high ankle sprain. I thought he was done for the season. I thought he broke his ankle, and the emotional response as he was carted off the field kind of indicated that to me. So with it only being a high ankle sprain, I guess you could say that's a best case scenario for them. And as far as I see it, they're probably just going to shelve him until the playoffs start anyway. So once January rolls around and they're going up against somebody in the playoffs, that's when he'll probably come back and be super effective for the 49ers. So the 49ers, as far as I see it, as long as their defense plays at this level, which is them playing elite defense with turning the ball over, getting the ball back to the offense, and putting them in good positions to score, this is a team that every team in the NFC has to keep their attention to. Because as far as I see it, they could beat anybody. They could even beat the Eagles as far as I see it. I know the Eagles have a 12-1 record, and they've been the best team in the NFC this year. I guarantee you, if they were to face against the 49ers right now, against that defense, the Eagles might struggle a little bit. And it wouldn't be a guaranteed win for the Eagles. The Eagles would have to earn a win against the 49ers as far as I see it. So, all in all, it was a great win for the 49ers. Now let's kick it to the Bucs. This was expected as far as I saw it. Kev, when we talked about this game, we even said that there was a potential for this game to be an absolute blowout. And I think you were the one that really said in your analysis last week that this was going to be a blowout. I had this game being a little bit more competitive, but that wasn't the case. The Bucs just weren't able to get anything going. And there was a chance for them to get something started early in the game. The 49ers went up 7-0. Tom Brady hits a sideline pass to Mike Evans for about 65 to 70 yards for a touchdown, but it gets called back for a holding, and Donovan Smith was the one person who got called for it. And Donovan Smith has been consistently been getting called for holding penalties this year. He's one of, if not the most penalized lineman in the entire NFL this year because he's just been getting absolutely bullied on the offensive line. And that's been a consistent theme for Tampa this year. Brady's got to get the ball out quicker because more times than not, that pass rush is going to get there. And even if Tom's getting the ball out quickly, it's at a risk of potentially suffering some sort of holding penalty or some sort of offensive line penalty where it puts them back 10 yards. And now you're dealing with a down and distance that's just frankly difficult to deal with. If it's 1st and 20 or 2nd and 20, there's a very low chance that you're going to be able to execute 2 plays to get you the yards you need for a first down. And that happened once again against the 49ers. So as far as I see it with the Bucs were going to lose this game pretty handily as far as I saw it. It was just going to be the margin of how bad they were going to lose. And with it being 35-0 in the third quarter, it's an ass beating. There's no other way to say it. And it really kind of goes to show what the Bucs are this year. They are a subpar or at best an average team. They'll beat the teams that are subpar. And when they go up against teams that are elite or top tier, they essentially get destroyed. They got destroyed by a better team in the 49ers. When they went up against the Chiefs a couple weeks ago, they got absolutely smashed. It just kind of goes to show that this team is a shell of itself compared to what they were a couple years ago when they beat the Chiefs in Super Bowl 55. And I don't think this is on Tom. I think this mostly has to do with the offensive line struggling, not holding up on their protections. And the defense is only going to be able to hold up for so much amount of time. If the offense isn't scoring because of what I would say is the incompetence of the offensive line, you're probably going to lose most of the games that you're going to play in. And that's exactly what's happened this year. Granted, I would say that Tom has been bad in some games, and this was one of those games where I thought he was pretty bad. But it's really indicative of where the Bucs have been this year. They're just an inconsistent team, and I mean, even if they were to make the playoffs, I think they're going to get knocked out in the first round. So the Bucs really got to figure out some sort of pathway forward here for the next month because at this point, there's no guarantee they can even win the NFC South. And it goes to show you have a 6-7 record. Tom's playing like shit. The offensive line's playing like shit. The defense is giving up points because the offense isn't doing anything. It's a recipe for disaster as far as I see it. But just to kind of round this out, the 49ers, they're a team to be reckoned with. You got to watch out for them for the next month or so because they're definitely going to try to improve their playoff seeding before the playoffs start. And when it comes to the Bucs are going to limp into the playoffs if they can even do that. And honestly, I wouldn't rule out the possibility that they miss the playoffs if they play like this consistently for the next month or so. So I'll just kind of leave it at that.
I don't have anything to say about the Buccaneers. I know that normally we're supposed to give feedback on both teams, our analysis of both. I mean, it was a piss poor performance from everybody, Brady included. He normally doesn't turn the ball over. He had 2 interceptions. I will leave it at the fact of Tampa's got a lot of shit to fix. Offensive line, atrocious. Running the football maybe is the only thing I can give them something ish, but the game got out of hand. So I mean, like outside of the first quarter where it was 7-0, San Fran blows them out 21 points in that second quarter. So I'm going into the 49ers. 49ers arguably are the best team in the league right now. Very bold, very hot take, but when you have 7 forced turnovers in 2 games, your third string quarterback, let me say that again, your third string quarterback is responsible for 6 touchdowns. That's a lot. Offensively, they're moving. They're running the ball. They're finding ways to throw the ball. Now, what Kyle said is 100% true. Injuries, for whatever reason, are just plaguing San Fran. One player at a time. Almost every single week, there's somebody that ends up on the injury report or someone that's missing significant time. And this week, you can make the argument that as their deadliest weapon, the Deebo Samuel's going to be out for 4 to 6 weeks with a high ankle sprain. With the playoffs starting in basically 4 or 5 weeks, hopefully he can get better as soon as humanly possible. We know that they have plenty of weapons with Kittle, McCaffrey, and Ayuk to carry the load until then. But it just depends on if Brock Purdy is going to be able to continue this level of play moving forward. Now, when you talk about how clean this game was, 5 incompletions for Brock. He was not sacked one time. There's not much. It's not much cleaner you can get for a quarterback. If you're not throwing the ball, you're not fumbling the ball, or throwing the football away, you're not fumbling the ball, and you're also being efficient with the football. It was almost a perfect game for him, at least for me. 92% QBR, 134 passer rating. I mean, it just they had to pull him in the fourth quarter because it was a blowout. It didn't really matter. So kudos to the 49ers for doing what I thought they would do. I'm a little disappointed that their pass rush was not able to get to Brady. Brady was not sacked at all. So I will give the Buccaneers a little bit of leeway here, a little bit of credit. They were able to protect. But at the end of the day, San Fran did exactly what they needed to do, and that is beat the living shit out of a worse football team than them and solidify themselves not only as a top 5 team in the NFL, but the league's best defense. Hands down, no question about it. So happy to see the 49ers turn this around despite the injuries to the quarterback position that they've gone through pretty much every single year. But we'll see what happens as it progresses. Shout out to Brock Purdy, man. Kind of excited to see what he does going forward, man. He might kind of have one of those rare seasons where the more they win, the more confident he gets, and confidence going into a postseason berth is going to be everything. And with Seattle losing, it looks more and more like San Fran is going to win the NFC West. So, again, shout out to the 49ers. Super excited when I see a team's defense go absolutely bonkers.